on to Aria. If you'd like.
Sure. I don't have any notes for this chapter either, so I have to remember. It was just, kind of, I like Aria. It was just kind of a little bit, again,
well, I just had one thought, and I'm curious as to what you think about this. Okay. But I think, you know, it establishes it pretty early on, obviously, the relationship between Aria and Jon, and it obviously continues. Again, I'm so weird. My mind just works weird, and I look into things a lot. But what I really loved about this chapter, I thought it was cute, so we're always comparing, like, Jon and Aria, and I just thought it was unique that, like, both of them are... I just loved how she was in class and, like, she almost started to cry and she didn't want anyone to see her cry, so she, like, ran out so no one had to see her cry, and Jon literally did the same thing when he was at dinner, and I just thought that that was really, really cute.
It was cute.
And I just like hearing a lot. I love hearing about how Aria feels about Sansa and about how Sansa feels about Aria. It's just so complex. Yeah. I think in the book I think you get the complexities in the show, but in the book you get more of the love behind it, I think, than you get
the sister feeling.
Yeah.
The, like, I love her, but why can't she be like me?
Why can't she be like me? Why are you doing that? You're different. Like,
like, skipping to Sansa's chapters, that why Sansa's so frustrated, right? You can, like, relate to having
like
sister.
A snot, but she's really just so...
I don't understand how can we be so different.
Right, and she holds... We'll talk about her in a little bit, but...
Yeah.
Yes.
So, this is a little bit... I felt like the chapter was just good. It was just more backstory, like, in-depth on...
Exactly, which I loved. Just a few chapters. And then I, love her little Jon and Aria interaction, all about that. But with Bran, again, I can't say it enough. I'm, like, the biggest book Bran fan. I just think his stuff is so interesting. There's, like, so much, like, subtext to everything in these chapters that, like, now that I've watched all the seasons and I've listened to lore, I'm just like, that means something. I know that means something, and I just, like, get really freaking nerdy about it. And it's so funny because, like, I didn't even care that Bran was, like, not even in season 5. I was like, I don't even care about his life, but now I'm like, when's the next Bran chapter?
Well, he's so, I mean, even though he's young, like, this chapter obviously is the one where he gets pushed out of the window.
Right.
But just all leading up to it, like, all that we've gotten up until this point in just watching the show is, he loves to climb. Like, that's pretty much it. But
obsessively loves to climb.
But this entire chapter is, like, his intricate thoughts on how climbing sets him free, and, like, how he was so miserable when he couldn't climb, and, like, all of that. You just learn, like, more about, like, his need to explore and to see things and to know things that people don't know. I thought that was super interesting.
Yes. And to see, it says he likes seeing things that nobody else sees.
Right.
Damn. Like, George. Can that be a little thing that we say? Damn, George.
Like, that he can see these, like, routes that, like, nobody else would know.
Oh, yeah, I loved hearing that about Winterfell.
Yeah.
It just makes Winter feel, I mean, you already feel so close to the Starks at the beginning of the series, but I just love, all that even interesting stuff about Winterfell. You're just like, oh, the Starks are my best friends. Winterfell is my home. Yeah. This is... I don't know, I loved that about this chapter, too. And he's just so freaking cute. And he talked about Hodor for the first time in this chapter. So.
And I love him seeing them have sex and, like, not understanding that they were having sex, like...
Naked wrestling? Is that what
thinking that he was hurting her, and then, like, not... Like, I love that just shows how young he is.
I know.
Like, he didn't, like, get it. For,
Yeah. Oh, I also thought this was interesting, too, because, like, this is the first... We've heard so many people describe Cersei and Jaime, but we haven't, like, really listened to anything, any of their talk and stuff. I thought it was really interesting that Cersei was talking about Ned and how she was sure that Ned would deny Robb's offer to be Hand of the King, and I was like, that's so interesting that Cersei, like... I mean, I guess Ned's not a difficult person to read, I guess.
Right.
He's an honorable dude, but the fact that she was, like, fully prepared that Ned would reject, but she probably had no idea that, like, Catelyn was kind of in the background pulling the strings, making sure that that's something that Ned goes forth and does. Right. I just thought that was really interesting. It felt like...
And also, that, I think, is the first spark in something has changed, something is different, because she was...
Or maybe they're on to us. Or...
Yes, because he was fully prepared to say, no, I don't want to do this. And they were kind of talking it back and forth still when the letter came, and it was obvious. And so I think that...
And he was like, well, I have to go avenge Jon.
Right. Because she knew or she thought she knew so clearly that and she was right, that his first initial thought would be, no, 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 no. There starts the initial spark of what could have turned his head.
Yeah. I just thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. Then we get Tyrion's first chapter.
My little boo-boo.
Number one, in the audiobook, I love the guy who reads it, but he does like this almost like leprechaun voice.
Oh god.
And I hate it. It really ruined any Tyrion thing for me. I will tell you that I feel I'm growing to love a lot of the other characters. Like, I've always loved Tyrion. Again, not as much as you, but I've always enjoyed his character very much. But I think, and I didn't dislike him from reading the book, but it didn't, at this point, has not added anything for me, seeing his thought process. And maybe it's because
I think Peter Dinklage does such an incredible job.
I think he does such a good job of bringing that across, and I think Tyrion's character in general is just an open and honest one, and he shares a lot of his feelings out loud.
Well, that's all he has. Yeah. He's not a knight. He's an imp. He's not a fighter. So, like, what he has is his words, and what he has is his brain.
He doesn't play the game, and so in reading his chapters, I'm like, I don't like...
What do you mean he doesn't play the game? I don't agree with that.
He doesn't play the game of, like, how, I in the sense of, like, I'm not going to say this because so-and-so might hurt their feelings. Like, he doesn't play that... He says what's on his mind. Yes, he plays the game, the bigger game.
Okay, yeah, because I was like, I don't know.
No, he plays the bigger game. But, like, Catelyn, even seeing Catelyn's thoughts, and, I'm not going to say this to Ned because it's not the right moment. Like, Tyrion he says it. He says a lot of the things that he's feeling or thinking or that other people won't say. He doesn't have his, I won't even say it's decorum, because normally he still does it in a way that's, presentable, that's not like out of turn a lot of the time.
Right.
But I feel like in reading his chapters, I have, at this point, granted we're not that far, I haven't been like, oh my gosh, this like, in seeing other people's views of him, I think has opened my eyes to Tyrion more than his own chapters. I haven't been like, oh my gosh, this
interesting.
My life.
I don't think it's changed my life, but I do feel more connected in certain ways with his. There were some tidbits that I thought were really interesting about him, and again, I think it wasn't starkly different because I think Peter Dinklage always has done such an incredible job of like playing to his subtext. Like, I feel like Peter Dinklage read the book or something, because just everything he does really, really falls in line for me. But a couple things that really, and I don't know, it's probably in later Tyrion chapters we can touch on it. I probably made note of it, but like this idea of the fact that he is constantly in pain was something I never really got or wrapped my head around. And I think he is not dishonest, but like he doesn't ever let on to being weak in that way. Right. Which I think is really interesting. I loved this chapter where he slept Joffrey.
Yeah.
And it was so like it was so like Draco Malfoy to me when he was like, I'm gonna go tell my mom on you, Tyrion. I just really liked that. I thought that was funny. But another thing that I thought was interesting was he like has mentioned thus far in the like made comments that he's like lined with whores and stuff like that, and obviously that's gonna come into his storyline soon. But like that was the first view of Tyrion like in the show, was him drinking wine and lying with whores.
Right.
And I mean, you knew that he was well read because he still kept a lot of those like quotes in there, but
they introduced you to him very differently than he's introduced in the book. Yeah. He's introduced very wise in the book.
Yeah. So, yeah, I thought that, I mean, and he is very wise.
Yeah.
But like you don't see his, you
get
him doing that.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting. And yeah, I thought it was interesting. I mean, I guess we kind of already knew this, too, that him and Jaime do favor each other as siblings. And how it said in this chapter that, like, he would, because Jaime was, like, the only person who was even slightly kind to him growing up, that he would be willing to forgive Jaime of almost anything.
Which is funny, because I feel like Tyrion is a very methodical character. He is very good at the overall game. He's very smart.
Yeah.
And for Jaime, I feel like Jaime's almost his, like, the relationships they have as siblings are so interesting and dynamic because it's almost
the Lannisters are crazy.
It's almost how Jaime treats Cersei. Like, he would do things that are out of character for him, for his sister. Tyrion, even like in that line where he says that, like, he doesn't even say he was nice to him. Doesn't even say he loved him. It says that he was the only one that was slightly not mean to him.
Right.
And for that he would do anything, and I think that shows a little bit of Tyrion's weakness, and it shows a little bit of that's not super Tyrion. He wouldn't normally give somebody so much leeway for so little.
Right.
And I think that's an interesting dynamic of their relationship.
Well, I'm curious to see. Yeah, I'm curious to see how his arc is in the book, because he just doesn't seem to, like, care about... I mean, like, he cares about a lot, but, like, when he becomes really into the well-being of the realm...
Yeah. Right now he doesn't. Right now he cares about being to his family, like, being an asset to his family, and talking about needing to read books and be smart.
Well, he already says that he's, like... I mean, he tells Jon, like...
But he's not interested in the inner workings.
I don't like my family.
Yeah. But he's not interested in the inner workings yet.
Right.
He's not in the game, the inner workings of what was happening yet.
Yeah.
At least not on the outside.
Yeah. Catelyn sucks in this chapter.
Oh, yeah. The worst.
She is so awful in this chapter.
Did you think you would ever say that? Because I feel like a lot of people commented, which I think is funny, you know, because you obviously loved Catelyn a lot through the show, and didn't seem super affected by these moments, which I felt a lot stronger about in the book than the show.
Yeah.
But, you know, a lot of people commented, did you really still love Catelyn so much after the way she treated Jon? And not just in these moments, but in general. And I think that's interesting. Like, did you think that you could have disdain for her?
I don't, and you know, maybe my opinion is clouded because I fell in love with her character on the show so much. I don't have disdain for her. I think this is like a low moment for her, and I hate that this happened, and I hate that she did this, and I felt like, I mean, God, like, just imagine, okay, so she's been at Bran's bedside for all these days. I'm sure she hasn't eaten. She probably hasn't slept. She's, like, overcome with grief. She's, like, literally in the worst position ever. And then in comes Jon, and she doesn't have any real reason to hate him, but she does, and I'm sure... I mean, just all of the things. It's a complicated situation, and it's not... Jon didn't do anything wrong, and he doesn't deserve it. But I think she feels, you know, threatened by Jon's presence in Winterfell with her children. I think it comes out of a place of her being really protective of her children. And maybe Jon threatens that in some way. But I think what's hard about this chapter is, like, because she's in the state that she's in, she's a million times worse than usual. And I wouldn't go as far to say that she's saying things that she doesn't mean, because I think she means everything that she said to Jon in this chapter.
I think she's smart enough to not normally say it, though.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because why would you say that to someone?
When I read this chapter, I was like, she's a monster. How did I ever, like, not see that? And then as I read on, and she realizes that she was a monster.
Yes.
Then I realized, okay, that was a low moment.
Right.
But this is, you haven't learned a lot about her, and almost all of your interaction with her from chapter 1 through now has been her, like, being bitter about Jon, like, in her own head.
Right.
So you're like, who is this evil
Well, and then
woman?
just, like, also the guilt she feels because Bran was the only Stark that she was like, he has to stay in Winterfell with me. Like, you can take everyone else, but Bran has to be with me. And then because he stayed, he has climbed and fallen, and I think there's, like, a lot going on with her right now.
And she's taking that out.
So I definitely don't hate her by any means, but I don't think anything that she did was good. Like, I thought when she started sharing about, when she said, I prayed for it, he was my special boy, I went to the Septon, prayed 7 times to the 7 faces of God that Ned would change his mind and leave him here with me. Sometimes prayers aren't unanswered. And then Jon says it wasn't your fault, and you think, like, oh my God, like, she sees how much Jon loves Ned. She sees how much Jon cares for her children and how he's, like, a part of the family. And then she does the whole "it should have been you," and you're like...
And then Jon...
Why did you do that?
But then Jon comes out, and a very mature 14-year-old, Rob's like, my mom, and he's like, she was very courteous. And you're like, knife to the heart, like, he... Wow. Like, that... Because I would come out, especially to my brother, and be like... But I think that just shows... to me, that kind of shows the... Not the rift, but, like, the difference between talking to your, like, the way I would talk to my siblings about a parent if they irritated me versus the way a bastard would refer to his not mother to his her son.
Yeah, but obviously he's such a bitch. Like, he's not going to do that.
I feel like if it had been a full-blood sibling, like, he would have, but I feel like that's one of those moments where he is going, I am a bastard, like... I can't say something bad about Catelyn to, it's my duty to, you know, uphold, you know, her name to her son.
Right.
And that just seems super mature.
Yeah. I hated that this happened for Catelyn. I just hate that she did that. But.
Can we talk about the next chapter, though?
Wait.
Yeah.
I think this is when he gives Aria a needle and it's great.
Yes, it is. Don't tell Sansa.
I know. Okay, just wanted to say that we loved that part, right? Mm-hmm. And it was really great, and we all wanted to cry and inside. Great. Yes. Good talk.
Yep.
Next chapter.
I literally read this morning in bed, and I was like, I woke Brian up, and I was like, the show screwed this up.
Yeah.
I was so mad. And I know we're not supposed to directly compare, and I get it.
Right.
But, and,
yeah.
The Daenerys sex scene.
Yeah. Well, wait. Yes. We can go back after that. Yes. Let's talk about the sex scene.
Well, we can start at the beginning, but that's what's in this chapter. So the wedding and the end of the wedding.
Well, tell me what you think about the sex scene.
It was not the same thing as this, what I would call a sexual awakening that happened in the book.
Oh, well, because that happens later.
At the end of this chapter.
No, she doesn't have a sexual awakening yet.
Yeah. She says yes, and he puts his fingers inside her.
Yeah.
I would say that's a sexual awakening.
Well, not compared to the one that she has later on.
Well, I don't think I've gotten to that. What? But going from the beginning of her wedding and not wanting to be with him and not wanting him to take her clothes off and being uncomfortable.
Right.
And going to a place where she was aroused and wanting to be in this situation.
Yeah.
That I did not see from her first sexual encounter with Drogo in the show.
Right. No, it seems like... Well, that's what's so interesting, and I'm so curious because I feel like I've heard, like, both sides of it, like, whether people think it is or not. But I think I felt similar to you when I read it, because I was like, it seems like... I know there's, like, this language barrier, but... It seems kind of, I wouldn't say like 100% consensual, but like, either she does that because she feels like she has to, and that's why people think that it's rape, but it...
Well, definitely in the book, I don't think it is. I mean, she literally says yes.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying that
and it says she could sense the fierce strengths in his hands, but he never hurt her.
Right. And that she was wet, like... She said yes, like there's just, and just the whole section before just about, how delicately, you know, the whole thing was.
Right.
Again, not to dispute the patriarchal issue of her being treated like an animal. That's still a major issue. But in this situation where she started the day out being terrified and
right, and then she had that dream about Viserys, like, basically abusing her, and then, like, I, like, highlighted this whole thing. It was awful. And she was, like, terrified of all these things. It seemed...
Like, she was miserable. Like, felt alone. And then this it didn't seem like she was alone.
No.
And it even said, like, it seemed, and who knows how long it was, but she said it seemed as if hours passed, that his hands finally went to her breast. Like, it was not a quick... you know, it was this whole, like...
It wasn't like, get down and let me just... I honestly felt that way, too.
Because it even said, like, it took a while for him to even touch her.
Yeah. Like, because it said he was admiring her body for what
they
felt
took
like
each
hours.
other's hair out. Like, she was involved in the process. Like, that...
It didn't seem... Yeah, I don't think it seemed that bad either. And
yes, do I still think it's bad for them to put her in this situation? Do I still think it's awful because going back to the fact that she's a child and this shouldn't have happened in the first place? Right. Absolutely.
And it talks, you know, and it talks later on about how, like, he comes home every night after his friends and, like, you know, has sex with her and the position, you know, the Dothraki do it and that sort of thing. And I don't think she loves that. But still, I don't get the whole rape thing, like, terrible, awful.
In the show, it just, she seemed, just her mindset, I feel like, just seeing her face in that scene in the show.
Like, why is this happening to me? This is awful.
Like, this is, and in here, like, I just feel like she had this kind of change of heart about it, and was kind of like...
It seemed like she was almost impressed with him, like, the moment he gave her the horse...
And she got on it, decided to be a dragon and pump herself up.
And it was the greatest gift she'd ever received.
And she felt like the wind. Or she could fly. Or he gave her the wind.
He gave her the wind. And then this happening, and then I kept thinking, I was like, is it because I'm tainted because we grow to love Khal Drogo so much in the show and, like, love their relationship and, like, really, really push for it. But I didn't get that either.
I thought this was beautiful.
I did too. I literally put XO on it.
XO.
I put XO. I was like, this is...
I couldn't even write it out. I just tagged it.
I think it's just like the start of her getting so comfortable in the Dothraki culture. Like, she loves it and she thrives, like, as a Khaleesi. And I felt like this was just the start. And it's like, we'll talk about the chapter later, but when she does have that moment where he comes back and she's like, no, like, I'm going to be on top this time. We're going out and we're going to have sex outside under the stars. Because, like, that's what they do it out in front, like, for everyone to see it, which I also thought was so powerful and so much more powerful than her doing it in the show. Like, kind of taking that charge of that sexual moment, because I didn't have negative feelings about it.
No, I thought it was... and you just feel her becoming who she is so much more. Yeah. In this sense. Because she's starting from the beginning of the day, like you said, having that dream, being miserable.
Worst dream.
Being terrified.
And then it talks about how she, like, looks around at the wedding and she's like, I'm the only woman at the wedding. Right. There was no, like, there's just so many things that she's experiencing, and then, I agree.